Welcome to what we're calling AI versus AI. We spend some time doing this for other people, this kind of podcasty type stuff, video stuff.
Quite a bit, yeah.
And, where'd this idea come from? I forget.
Yeah, shout out to Patrick Bet-David on his podcast, PBD Podcast. And what they were essentially doing was just going through news, current events, things like that. And there was one kind of controversial situation that was coming up. And it seems like a few different podcasts these days are starting to turn to AI to live fact check themselves, essentially, so that they can get a sense of like what's really happening out there or what we're talking about is accurate. And they were checking two different AIs against each other, and they were giving a bit of a different answer about the same topic. And Patrick just goes, man, I would love to see a podcast that was just essentially that, was just comparing what AIs were saying about the same thing. So that's where I think this idea was born.
That makes sense. Well, shout out, and we're going to steal that idea. Unabashedly stealing.
Yeah, exactly. And it just seems like, too, we were talking about this, it just feels like right now, even though with the prevalence of AI being everywhere, like I feel like, my kids are starting to learn how to use it. I use it every single day. It's starting to be the thing I edit my emails sometimes as I send things out and get ideas and stuff. There just seems to be, and let me know what you think of this, Topher, a bit of a, I guess, I don't know what to call it, hesitance or just kind of a critical feeling I think everybody has towards the information they're getting from AI. Even though we're using it, there's kind of this, where did this come from exactly? Like, and can I trust what I'm seeing to be accurate? Yeah,
we were just talking about that. And on the email thing, that is scary. Just so you know, I had an employee recently leave here is a nice email that will help you reply to your boss without, alienating him and completing these 3 objectives with the email. And so that little ChatGPT response was on the top of the email that was sent live to the person. 3 or 4 people CC'd. So at the very top of the thing, the chat response was left in there. So just be careful when using ChatGPT for email. Find some sort of integration where you don't have to do it manually and accidentally copy in some of the robot's text that was helping you.
Yeah, if anything, that's a little bit of like what we're doing here. Even with our these digital monsters that are coming out with AI, we still have to have the human handlers.
Yep.
Like you got to keep an eye on what exactly is it saying? How is it framing this information? Is it, actually answering a question that you asked? Or is it just spitting? Did it interpret it differently than what you intended it for? And then I think the presentation, as you said, especially in marketing, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it meets the mark in one way, but is not exactly not meeting the audience that you have intended for or something. And that's always scary to me when you hit send on an email going out to thousands of people.
Yeah.
And it's right after you send it too, right?
Yeah.
That's when it pops out.
Yeah. You thought you checked it and you did, and it's out there. Yeah, well, I think it's important that we pit robots against robots as we get ready for robot overlords in general, and start to show that they have their own enemies and we're not the enemy. There's other reasons to do this for sure, but the robot overlord theory is a good one. But we work in marketing. It's interesting to see where trends and keywords and ad copy and the rest of it come from. How rehashed is this? How is every one of my competitors seeing the same, rehashed copy line for my pool service business? Is there, when I asked for keywords, is that for real? Where's the source? Will the same machines give me the same response? And I think that's kind of where our, purview is here in the AI world, but also just I'm chatting with these machines every once in a while just for daily stuff. How to look through some subscriptions and see what am I going to lose when I go to the free version of a couple of these, to trim the fat here. And they were able to scour all those sites that you used to have to go parse through and pull them together, and hopefully it's real. Although, we've all seen the horror stories too. Guy ends up in Chile because ChatGPT or something, showed him he could go without a visa. And he's there on the runway there. And he's like, nope, you can't. You can't do it. So good luck to that guy, wherever you are in the mix.
Hopefully not speaking Spanish right now.
Yeah, hopefully not having to learn Spanish by force. Or by necessity, I shouldn't say something.
Right, exactly. That's and that's the thing too, is I think there's people, I'll be honest, the other day I was, just like almost mental health questions, I went on, I was like, hey, like I'm kind of feeling a certain kind of way about something, like, what do you think? And it starts becoming this mini therapist confidant.
Yeah.
It'll
oh my gosh, I know.
Empathically responds to you like, oh, I see where you're coming from. I understand you.
Yeah.
But if, it feels good. It sounds like someone you might be talking to.
Yep. Mine knows me pretty well. My go-to knows me pretty well and has helped me on habits and things like that, which are, it's interesting. It's interesting. I would have never thought I'd grow up and rely on some robots for some of that one-on-one therapy type stuff. Anyway, so we started this podcast today, and we're not sure it's going to see the light of day, but we're going to, pretend. And I think it's, every time me and Andrew talk, we work together on several facets, I will say, and it's Sprolo and otherwise. And, I think, we do this a lot for other people, and we do a lot of content creation and stuff. We've never really dipped our toe in it ourselves, see how it goes. And I thought a nice way to start would be to ask a piece of software somewhere in some data center how to start a podcast. Where it's called the 5 first things, the five top 5 things that we should do to make our podcast successful, or something like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. If we're going to start something off, let's see what it thinks about itself.
Did we do this right? Did we do that right? This right? That right?
Yeah.
Can we
officially call this a podcast?
Yeah.
Now?
Can you even call this a podcast? We'll see. And let's take a look. I have ChatGPT pulled up here. It's a paid version, but it's, no frills. It's not the, whatever it is, $300 a month one.
Like the plus.
Yeah. Yeah. This one's, so I'm on 4. All right. It's actually running ChatGPT 4 Turbo.
Got it.
And it says it's faster and smarter, more knowledgeable, enhanced context awareness, multimodal capabilities, coding powerhouse, and cost effective and scalable. So what more do you need?
Good. Well, meanwhile, over here, I'm going to be using a different AI. This is the Versus AI, different one. We're going to go with Claude AI this time. Actually, this is called the Claude Haiku, which is their simpler, faster, free version. But they do caveat that Claude 3.5 Haiku is faster, but may provide less detailed responses than what they call their Claude 3.7 Sonnet, which is not available for free plans. But we figured, why not showcase, if you just picked up, an AI model today, what might you use? And, some people are paying for things, but many are just kind of getting their feet wet. This might be one you just would go to. It's not even downloaded. This is just the browser option that we're going right to. And this is what it looks like today. Claude 3.5 Haiku, simple, fast, and we'll kind of see what it says with the same questions that we're asking ChatGPT, powered by an upgraded premium version.
All right. Yeah, that's good. All right. That's our verses for today. So how do we want to ask this? We're not going to give either of these robots a heads up that we're pitting them against each other. Right? Someday I want to do that. I want to be like, you are now officially against another AI, and work better, work harder. It's on you. Yeah. But today,
that would be fun at some point to do a debate.
Yeah.
Right? Like, here's a topic. You pick the side of let's call political Republican versus Democrat on a topic, right? Mm-hmm. Like, take the persona of a fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And then what would be your opening statement when it came to something? We'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
So Topher, thinking about this, I think it makes sense for us to be specific exactly on what we put into this prompting for this first question that you posited, which was how do we set up a podcast? I like the way you put it, the 5 steps. It makes sense for us to put it in exactly the same to kind of see what result comes out. First
question is, what are the 5 things we need to do to make our podcast successful? All right. So mine says be better looking. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't say that. They would never say that.
Interesting. Okay, I kind of get a vibe already from Claude here. Do you want to start with yours? Which number one?
Sure. And let me get my screen recording started here.
Mm-hmm. While you do that, I can
go for it.
Off here. So Claude starts off by saying, define your unique value proposition. It says, creating a successful podcast starts with having a clear, compelling concept that sets you apart from the shows in your niche. And it gives you a couple questions to ask yourself about audience, what unique perspective you bring, what specific problem or entertainment need your podcast is going to solve, and wants you to develop a strong, distinctive voice and approach that makes your listeners want to tune in consistently.
Okay, that's pretty good. Mine is similar, I guess. Nail your niche and audience targeting. That's the first thing that ChatGPT has said. Varies a little bit from, your version of being value prop first. But I could see some consistency in that. So, nail your niche and audience targeting, define a clear niche, know your ideal listener, offer unique value. I'm not going to go into subtext, but you got the fun little emojis here. Do you just have emojis?
No emojis on Claude here. It's very scanning through the entire thing, very kind of text driven. I did notice that it has an ask yourself, so a bit of a maybe thoughtful, like what you could take away from this. So and then you have to kind of answer these yourself on your own time. It's interesting that they would start with this because actually, as we've set up podcasts before, sometimes audience. It's not always the first thing thought of. It's like, here's what I bring to the table. I've got this idea. It'd be cool. Let's do it. But not always like, what do people want to hear or what is the specific group?
For sure. Yeah, we can. Yeah, that's a problem since time, right? Is that, you don't look for a problem to solve. You just have something and you want to do it. That whole fit is something that you wrestle with in all industries, it seems like.
I'll even say like we work with a podcaster who has a very general concept, topical podcast where she wants to touch on a lot of different ideas and different kind of guests and things because it's interesting. She finds it fun and it's exciting, and a lot of the podcasts are really insightful. But she spun off to a widow specific topic, which was just the audience was very
that's drilled down, yeah.
And we noticed when we noticed that even though there wasn't necessarily more marketing or promotion around that podcast, but we just naturally had more audience participation and more engagement on that podcast right off the bat.
Yeah.
The other one had been around for years, and then she spun off this, 1 year in, there were more views, more listeners consistently on the Widows one. Now, some of that might have come from the fact that she had already built an established podcast with some audience base, so some of it was just coming off of it.
Yeah.
But the consistency around the fact that she had this one that was actually outperforming her original, she was still doing the original.
Makes sense.
Very, very specific niche seemed to draw in more audience members than
that makes sense.
The general one.
I mean, that makes sense. That we know that to be true. Is that you're speaking to trying to speak to everybody, you're speaking to nobody, and I think that bears out. What's numbered for me? I got consistency is king.
Ooh.
As a what to do. It's interesting. That's not exactly what I asked. I said, what do we need to do? And it's like, well, I guess it's a header. It's a header, right? Consistency is king. And then my things to do are underneath, which is set a posting schedule, stick to a format, length matters. Aim for 25 to 45. So we better speed up here. But yeah, mine's consistency.
Okay, interesting. For Claude, it puts consistency as third. So second, it actually puts in, and I don't know necessarily if we asked it to put it in the most important, so something we could kind of consider there, but it thinks number 2 is investing in quality production.
Wow.
So all right,
that's a pretty big deviation.
It is. I would say so, right?
Yeah.
It goes for like tangible things like good quality microphone, quiet recording space, editing skills, or hiring a professional editor. So it goes right into actually investment into your podcast. It's not just saying, hey, what's the strategy? It's going into like, what are the tools you need to make this work?
I mean, fair enough. That's interesting. Yeah, I would argue. I think that consistency is. I'm going to pick a winner here and say that consistency is more important than production value. For if you've done the number 1 right and you have a niche or a value prop over there, depending on what we listen to. We did our number ones. I was a ChatGPT winner based on what, I think, my human brain, my meek little human brain over here.
I think so, especially since the question we asked it were, what are the 5 things we need to do to make our podcast successful?
Right.
And I don't think necessarily having, a fancy piece of it is going to be like a critical need for success. Obviously, you have to have something that's going to...
Yeah, the bar is getting raised for sure. Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. As a comparison to someone I've seen in my own life that has expanded her reach in social media was, she's editing using she has her phone, her iPhone as her camera. Yeah. And then she's using simple editing software on her phone itself to produce basically shorts for reels. Yeah. And she went from, maybe a couple thousand to over 100,000 followers just using those materials alone. But the key thing that I remember her doing was she posted every single day. Yeah. It was consistent.
No substitute for it. Yeah, there's no substitute for it. That's honestly, it should probably be number one. It's like, I don't even care what you do. You do it every day, you're gonna get eyeballs. And it's true. I mean, it bears out everywhere. Look at the trash we're exposed to just because they're loud. There's good instances of it too, but there's a lot of stuff out there that's just pushing content. All right, so we got to move.
What's next for you?
Number 3, create hype and build community.
Huh. Okay. So Claude has a build community as number 5.
Wow.
For it. So it goes a little bit differently in that it kind of shoots off to developing a robust marketing and distribution strategy. So it goes like, wow, production, then consistency, and then distribution. All right. As being a key part before it gets to community.
Interesting. That makes sense. My 4 and 5 is create high quality audio and editing, which is, your number 2, I believe. Invest in good stuff. Monetize, and then 5 would be monetize and market smartly, which is leverage SEO, sponsorships, affiliate, stuff like that we all talk about, cross promoting. So really they put that way at the bottom. ChatGPT did. Interesting. I think there's a couple deviations there that are interesting. I think the summary here is that ChatGPT wanted to find that fit and just go. If it would go on their top 2 right there, it's find your niche and go and don't stop. And then, 3 items down is market, and 4 items down is have some good stuff. Whereas, I feel like yours was
a little more focused on, trying to make sure it's done right up front or as best as possible before pushing it out from there. I think would be probably the biggest key difference here is that, it emphasized more of the quality production, figuring out your audience, and then maybe actually getting almost too detailed, in my opinion, on like where to put it. Like it was very like making sure there's extra information about how to go about doing this versus like consistency and the community side of it. So interesting. I think, obviously all over they did hit on some similar ones, but they rank them a bit differently. So if you were to kind of put together a project plan on how to get this done for ourselves, or if you put a calendar together, we would approach this differently. Yeah. If we, and you know what, honestly, we might get stuck if we didn't have maybe some resources on number 2. We can figure out and say, hey, our audience is going to be people interested in AI or people in tech, in folks, but then invest in quality production. That may take us a while. We can already have those things set up.
Agreed. So it's interesting. I mean, definitely a different play there. 2 different timelines bearing out. One breaks the internet and becomes super successful over time, and then one is still asking his parents for money to outfit the soundproof the spare room and get the better cameras and stuff. It's possible. Interesting. Sources on these. What do you think? You think we should ask what the sources are? Because mine didn't even give me a hint this time. Sometimes it does.
So you want to ask us specifically, what are your sources for for your response?
Yeah. What are your sources for your response?
I am interested to hear what yours says.
Mine says it's another, I would say, third party type rendition of where it's getting its sources, not telling me exactly what, sites or, places this came from, but more like I've done industry best practices, insights from podcasting platforms like Spotify, Apple, recommendations from experts, Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income podcast, and Joe Rogan, of course.
Interesting. It mentions specific people.
Yeah. And then data from podcasting studies, Edison research, Buzzsprout and Anchor analysis, or analytics, and podcasting communities, case studies, and tools and platform guidelines. And then personal knowledge and expertise, which is an interesting header for a, faceless, armless, cameraless robot, That's right. To tell us about how to set up a podcast. But its personal knowledge and expertise is number 5.
That's funny. So mine for a Claude, very similar. It actually, interestingly, I don't know if yours says the same thing. It says, great question. And then it says, it wants to be transparent. While the content it's created is based on general best practices and knowledge about podcasting. So general best practices, the specific artifact I generated comes from my training and understanding and not from external citations.
Wow.
So, and then it goes into, similar to ChatGPT there, that sounds like it goes into kind of, insights are drawn from kind of just what it said. Oops, sorry about that. It also says to go and seek out current industry sources, read podcasting blogs, learn from podcasters, and doesn't say anyone specifically though. And then also says look for authoritative sources like Buzzsprout, Anchor, or other media publications. I'll say this, we had some more planned, and I think we can't get there, but you do one more real quick? We'll keep it fast. We'll keep it snappy.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the most interesting one to you, Topher, of these ones?
I don't know. Let's go quick. Let's try quick. I mean, we're here on the format. Let's try to knock them out.
Okay.
All right. Let's don't get political, but let's ask about DOGE real quick, since that's on everybody's mind.
So maybe see, what's the most important thing DOGE is doing?
Yes, I love it.
I'm gonna put it that way too. More important thing DOGE is
all right,
doing.
me too.
DOGE is.
Notice we are not saying good or bad on purpose. We're asking important. I guess significant might be another
interesting.
One.
So right off the bat, looking at this, it thinks Claude thinks I'm talking about Dogecoin.
Same.
Cryptocurrency.
Same.
Huh. Okay.
That is interesting. That shows kind of a swing and a miss on the zeitgeist, or at least on what's going on. A swing and a miss on what people are talking about as it relates to DOGE.
For sure. And if you Google DOGE, and I just did right now, it goes right to doge.gov as the number one heading. Department of Government Efficiency is the number one research result.
Yeah. So it should be able to pull that, I feel like,
I would think so. And then I'm trying to see even how far down before we even get into Dogecoin. It goes into Wikipedia article, right? The whitehouse.gov, and before it gets into Dogecoin as an option. So interesting. So
I'm saying I'm talking about DOGE, the U.S. government agency.
You write
yes.
You put them in there?
I'm talking about DOGE, the U.S. Gov agency. I just wanted to know that that's crazy.
Mine says, I apologize for my previous misunderstanding. I don't think it still doesn't get it. What does yours think it is?
I'm trying again. Apologies for the confusion. You're referring to the Department of Government Efficiency.
Mine thinks it's the Drug Enforcement Administration Office of Global Enforcement.
No way.
Weird.
Let me get my screen record up.
And I'm spelling it right. Yeah, DOGE.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Claude right away has kind of avoided DOGE. Not purposely, but has avoided DOGE as the one we're talking about with Elon Musk. So I might have to say, I mean the one with Elon Musk in it. But mine says, this is specialized unit within the Drug Enforcement Administration. And the most important thing that this DOGE is doing is coordinating international drug enforcement efforts targeting transnational drug trafficking organizations, which, hey, shout out to this DOGE. Great work, I think. That sounds like a good thing, but not the DOGE we're talking about.
This is, what is it? It's a Friday when we're both supposed to be probably working. So in our defense, we've strapped this together pretty quickly. Anyway, just to bring you the ins and outs of why ChatGPT is the only one so far that wants to talk about DOGE. So I hope you find this interesting.
Well, and even with that too, I'll say this. Okay, so I even said, I mean the one with Elon Musk, and I should have thought about this, that Elon was associated with Doge.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And it says, oh, I apologize for the confusion. If you're referring to Doge in connection with Elon Musk, I assume you mean the Dogecoin.
Yeah, I assume you also mean that again, don't you?
So I'm going to put the actual name for it.
All right, let's see. While Andrew sees if he can finally get Claude up,
acknowledge this,
talk about the fact that there is this crazy agency now.
Oh, I apologize, but I'm not familiar with a Department of Government agency abbreviated as DOGE. This doesn't appear to be a standard or widely known government agency. Could you provide more context about this organization?
Wow. All right. Extrapolate or infer what you will from that. Our loving audience. That is interesting.
Yeah,
that is interesting. Right. There's a meme with Simba looking up to his dad, overviewing the whole, savannah. Yeah, right. Or, African landscape. And he says, your kingdom is, wherever the light touches. He's like, what about that area over there? He says, we don't go there. We don't, that must never be. And so that's where we're finding DOGE over there in Claude. That's in the dark area.
So I think distinctly for that question, Claude could not answer the question actually. So ChatGPT wins purely on this, even after several attempts at getting it to get to the question we were looking at, not in a controversial way.
It should have known anyway, even though the third time you asked, even when you asked about Elon, it should have known it's probably, it's the coin or it's the agency at that point,
right.
All right, we got to move on.
What's next?
So we're in marketing. I was going to ask you a marketing question. I mean, most of what we should be doing right now, instead of trying to strap a podcast onto a Friday afternoon, is doing marketing for clients and medical practices and things like that. And I want to start with something general. How can we use, $100? Or I don't know. Are we trying to top 5 format or just skip the one? What are the 5 ways we could use $100 most effectively for a local business?
Ooh, okay. $100 you said?
Yeah.
Well, the top 5 ways we can use $100 for a local bit. Do you want to caveat that we do marketing?
Yeah.
For $100 towards marketing.
Yeah.
For a local business.
All right, read it back to me.
So I have, what are the top 5 ways we can use $100 towards marketing for a local business? Because that's a good budget question. It's a practical one because a lot of times we have clients who say, hey, I can only give this amount per month, So I'm kind of curious to see what this thinks are those ways you could use $100, which is not very much money.
No, it's super not. Should we bump it to 1,000 before it says print?
It's 2,000.
Yeah, it's 2,000.
Realistically,
I want to see if it chooses an ads platform or what,
Yeah. I'm curious to see what it says for 100 too.
I kind of am too. Let's back it up. Let's do it. You know what?
Yeah. Well, how creative can it get?
All right, but let me read it. What are the top 5 ways we can use $100 for marketing for a local business?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. All right, let's go quick.
Okay.
You got your 5?
Yep.
Mine wants Facebook first.
Oh, social media advertising was also number 1 here. Highly targeted ads on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
How much did it allocate?
5 to 20 a day. I think these are all either or, sort of, maybe in my book,
Interesting. Okay. Mine allocates $30 to $40 of the $100.
Oh, that's interesting. See, it responded, I think, more clearly than there, or more, effectively based on the question, because mine is $100 can easily reach 3,000 to 5,000 people on social. It's categorizing that as a move.
Interesting. Okay.
Mine's email next.
Google Business Profile Optimization.
That's third on mine.
Okay. I don't even have email until the very last one.
Okay.
So the next one down. So it has Google Business, then local online directory listings like claiming your pages on Yelp, Bing places, local chamber of commerce websites,
just making sure your information's updated on those pages.
All right. Yeah.
So $15, $25 towards that, it looks like.
That's good. They're splitting you up pretty good. I kind of like yours better this time. Mine ends with number 4 being short form video and content for social. It says boost it, with your $10 to 20. And then it says run a social media giveaway contest.
Okay.
That's true. Sometimes I don't come back to that enough. Those giveaways, man, they work. It's funny. What's such a baseline 101 question, getting my gears turning.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's interesting.
It's interesting here. This gets hyper local grassroots marketing. So it talks about doing like postcards, flyers. I'm kind of thinking, the folks who come by your front door to drop off cards, things like that.
Yeah.
It also mentions, local bulletin boards, QR codes to special offers, things, and then networking with local businesses as well.
Right on.
Before it gets to email. So then it says use something like MailChimp to send out an email blast. All right.
Well, now we know how to do marketing. Who wants to hire us?
Good.
Come on.
We got this.
Come on. All right. We had a couple other things, but let's scoot to the thing I find most important, which is how do I use this AI to make me a famous musician? As you can see, I have some guitars around me here today, Andrew, and my dream is to revive my Hollywood days and get my songwriting back and become uber famous, probably more famous than anyone in the world has ever been.
Sure.
I feel like it's pretty realistic with my 3 kids and all.
A Topher Eras tour.
Yes.
Coming to
How do I get to my Eras tour is I guess what I'm asking. I feel like, I'm pretty on my way. I have some voice memos on the phone. Over the past, 10 years, I have plenty, but,
I got to brag about you a little bit. I mean, there was a time when I first met you, you gave me like, I don't know if it's called your demo CD, but you had a CD.
Yeah, we had a CD. Hey, that's right.
Take this, and I was like, okay. So I put it into our car had a CD player. Put it in there, and it stayed in there for probably a year because we just no other CDs. So that was the one that stayed in there. But every time we turned on the car, that was the default music that would come on.
That's so cool. That's so cool. That's so cool. There's a couple standouts on there, but like I said, those are from the good old days, man. I want to revive that so I can be on repeat in other people's cars too. Not that I don't love, being repeat.
It was a good sound.
Yeah.
I remember, my wife would remark sometimes like, "Wow, that's Topher. Like you sounded good. You sounded professional. Like it was clean."
Shout out Ethan.
I almost feel a little bit like I don't know, Matchbox 20-esque, like sort
of
like a
well, I grew up on that kind of stuff, dude. I grew up on that pretty angsty, middle rock where there was like hair rock, and then there was kind of grunge, and then there was this stuff beyond it, and then there was nu metal. Yeah. It was like kind of like that stuff in the middle there. Okay. Is where I was. Not quite.
Idly, right?
Yeah, Idly. Yeah, but that was the project. I kind of retiring that. Moving forward, but we'll see. Okay, anyway,
so the question you're asking is, do you want to put it specifically? How do I use AI to make me a famous musician?
Top 5 ways. Let's give it that, and then we'll run through them quick. Top 5 ways.
So I'm saying, are you saying just top 5, or what are the top 5?
I'm just going top 5. I'm gonna get short with it here.
Top 5 ways to use
AI to become.
I think some of the wording is important too.
Yeah.
Between the two of these, I do wonder.
To
become a famous musician?
Yes.
Okay. Top 5 ways to use AI to become a famous musician. Go.
All right.
I wonder if this is going to mimic a little bit of that first question we had around the podcasting, in terms of how they reply to it. That's kind of like my guess. Is they're going to have a similar style, but I don't know. We'll see.
All right, let's see. We still rolling? That's good.
Mine is, good.
You're still rolling? Mine might look like crap, but that's all right.
Okay. We've had podcasts go on where literally we have someone just watching the camera as it turns on and off.
You hate those mirrorless. Some of those mirrorless, when they don't have all these cameras, DSLRs, when they don't have external power and you're kind of doing it on location, it can stop.
All right, Topher, what do you have for yours? What's number 1 on your list of mine calls it the 5 innovative ways to use AI to boost your music career?
I'm jumping back into screen record here real quick. All right, top 5 ways to use AI to become a famous musician. ChatGPT's answer is AI-powered songwriting and beat creation. That is, for sure here. I get ads for it all the time about like why I write a song. I can write a song for you, and just trust me, I'm a robot and I know it's good. boom, they will make it for you. That's basically what it is. I will do it. It's basically saying I will do it.
That's basically it for this one too. AI-powered music creation and composition using tools like AIVA,
I have that.
Music, OpenAI's MuseNet.
I have Amper, Ava, AIVA. I should probably know that, and SoundRaw.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and then also kind of says so you can use it to analyze successful song structures.
Yeah.
If you want to DIY.
Dang, man, take some of the magic out of it, huh? Yeah, please analyze this song and help me create one similarly effective. That word. Anyway.
Right. Do you remember there was a real quick caveat? Do you remember there was a time when they were analyzing the difference between how many songwriters were behind like a Beatles song versus like Beyonce?
Oh, for sure.
And it was like Beatles had like 2.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And then they had Beyonce had like 15.
Individuals. Who Runs the World? Girls was my favorite. That's the one that keeps coming to mind. Who Runs the World or Girls, whatever that song's called. And I have to think it's just friends, right? Give me credit. Give me a songwriting credit. So. But true. And the people that have their hand in the pot on stuff like that, it goes as far as like songwriting retreats they're real. Out in Nashville, people will go out and write songs together, and if they vibe, they wrote it together. So there's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But then I think at that level, it's like, yeah.
Well, as a musician, you make an interesting point, and this might be this is where this tangents a bit, because I'm curious about your take on music when it comes to technology. Here is, do you feel like is it most important for the audience to have the experience of, hey, if the music was generated by 2 people versus 20 people versus AI completely, the audience is getting a similar experience out of it when listening to it. Does it matter? To you as a musician?
It doesn't matter to me. No, if the because the only thing that I can control, I think Rick Rubin says it best is like he does stuff for himself. He does stuff that it's an expression of himself. So like what happens after that is not super important, honestly. You know what I mean? Like I love music. Those people that are listening to the AI, they love music, and they're all loving it. And that is its own thing. So the creation of it and how it's done and stuff like that isn't something I really have a strong opinion on. It's the way I do it is because I like doing it this way. Yeah, if they're out there vibing, I like EDM and stuff like that too. That's just, probably first foray into, AI, beats and stuff like that probably was the EDM tip of the spear. And I like all that stuff. So, the purist in me is like, no, you need to be around a campfire and it needs to be acoustic music and, all that kind of stuff. But, no, at the end of the day, they're 2 different things. The consumption and the vibe is different from the creation and that whole process. And you can think about those separately, I feel like.
That's a good life takeaway. And it reminded me, actually, I don't know if I need to maybe fact check this at some point, but I'd heard a really cool differentiator between Mozart and Beethoven in their songwriting or music
What's
writing.
That?
So when it came to Beethoven, when Mozart wrote, he just wrote stream of consciousness. He didn't have a lot of iterations. It was just like he wrote it down one time, and it was almost that people even remarked that maybe it was coming from God, because he just wrote it down once. He put it in his head, wrote it down, had one copy of it or so, and it was ready to go. Beethoven had iteration after iteration, scratches, notes, cross-outs, new copies, new this, new that. But does anyone really care?
I know.
Like how it was produced? Because they both, I think, are stacked up as
that's a good point.
Classical composers as being in the top 5, I would say.
That's a really good point.
How they got there, just way different approaches.
And that illustrates it. I think that's a great example. Yeah, a great follow-up is that the approach was their own thing, and I'm sure they both liked it or hated it or whatever they felt about it. And that was its own thing, how they approach music.
Well, based
and
off
then
their
there's
capability.
and based off their capability. And then this audience who consumes it and vibes off it, that's completely separate. Obviously, they like the song for the song.
Right.
But anyway, so how do I get famous? I use AI to do it for me. I'll just run it through. I did, and then personalized fan engagement. So chatbots, I'm thinking, AI generated visuals and album art. AI-driven music distribution and audience targeting, and AI for viral marketing and trend analysis. So marketing, I'd say both of those last 2 are kind of marketing, audience targeting, music distribution, marketing, and trend analysis. So I could see it on the visual. So basically, it's going to write my song. It's at least going to give me the beats, probably give me the voice soon enough here. And then it's going to interact with my fans for me. And then it's going to have all the visuals for my artwork and crazy cool like eras, basically feeling aesthetics on the stage.
You basically create like a fake persona.
It just does it
just goes
for
out
me. Yeah. It just does it for me, man.
It's almost like, remember the gorillas?
Yeah.
Way back. It was just
for sure. I love it. Yeah, I love them.
You never really knew based off of the music videos. You're like, I don't know. It's just these cartoons. You're not sure. But so similar, I guess, in the different order, but it goes to personalized marketing and audience insights next. So it's kind of like, how do you analyze your audience, your listener demographics, things like that.
Yeah.
Use AI to optimize, again, almost like very tool oriented, optimize your postings and what you put out there. AI enhance social media and content creation. So video editing, content around that as well, engaging short form content for TikTok, Instagram Reels, etc. Then gets to voice and sound enhancement. So just making sure you sound good on there, using AI for that. And then finally, AI networking and collaboration. So actually interesting, identify potential collaborators using AI. And then platforms like LinkedIn AI matching can help you also. And then also professional outreach messages. Yeah, talk to your fans through AI essentially.
All right. That's pretty similar. Yeah, I feel like they all both bridged on marketing pretty quick. Mine really started with "I'll do it for you." Actually, yours did too. I'll do it for you.
Got you.
Yeah, I got you. AI powered songwriting and beat creation. So it'll make the song. It'll make the work for the album work for the song. It will define your audience and talk to them for you. You can be on a beach somewhere, and you're getting famous all the time from your AI. Interesting. So I'm going to not do that. I'm going to figure out how some new questions to ask it next time based on some parameters around creating the music myself. But good start. I think we've been a lot of places this podcast.
Yeah, we bounced around.
We bounced around a little bit, and I think we've seen some hole. We found a hole, at least in one of them, I feel like, and we've seen some difference in approaches between the two machines. And I think that we should ask, our AI versus AI crescendo question here, which will be, which AI is best for everyday tasks, let's call it this time. Let's just really pit them against each other.
Which AI is best for everyday tasks? That's how I'm going to ask it. Just like that.
Little self-promotion here right off the bat by Claude AI. It does not mince around. What is this?
Same.
Does give you a ranking? What's your say?
Mine's number one is itself. Yeah. ChatGPT 4 Turbo specifically. Best overall for versatility. How about you?
Says Claude 3.5 Haiku, my current version, what we're using right now. Best for general conversation, problem solving. It's fast. It's good at homework help, writing assistance, coding, math problems, things like that.
What's 2, 3? Mine gave me 5 because I think mine gave me 10.
Oh, wow.
Mine gave me 7, actually.
It's got 4.
Mine gave me 7. That's weird. Did we not? We didn't really ask for a quantity that time.
Okay. What kind of so what was your number 2?
Notion AI.
Ooh, interesting. Shots possibly fired here. This one says ChatGPT.
All right.
Number 2.
All right. Wow. You didn't even make the list for ChatGPT.
No Claude at all.
No Claude at all.
That's really interesting.
Let me get screen record up here.
So I'll give you the top 4 because it's only 4 for these guys. So it goes Claude, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and then it goes Anthropic's Claude 3 Sonnet. So it actually gives its 2 for itself.
Right on.
Because it chooses their next version, which is the more advanced paid version, I believe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's crazy. Mine's ChatGPT, Notion, Grammarly, Otter, Zapier, Perplexity, Reclaim, and that's it. No mention.
Huh. Okay.
Wow. I think ChatGPT hates Claude.
I think so too.
I think they refuse to acknowledge Claude. It's almost like when you get that meme where they walk into I think they're in an elevator, and he's like, "I hate you so much," and the other person looks down and is like, "I don't even know that you exist."
Yeah, I don't even think about you.
I don't even think about you at all. Yeah.
Draper. Right?
Yeah. There it is. Yeah, it was in the back of my head somewhere. But anyhow, yeah, that's ChatGPT's view of Claude.
And realistically, though, I think ChatGPT's answer is probably the more thorough, right? Because I'm looking at this here, and it basically is saying what you're using now is good. Don't really look anywhere else. Almost a bit of self-promotion there, because it then talks about another version of itself before going to ChatGPT as being the next thing. So
quite interesting.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I mean, I think we've warmed them up. That was round one, I feel like, today. Round one was dancing around the ring a little bit, taking a couple punches, and no bloodshed yet, I don't think. But
no bloodshed. A little bit of just obvious differences and things. But I'd love it too. Out of anybody who is listening to this, and seeing our stuff, I'd like to know people's questions. If they've got anything that we could ask ChatGPT and whatever else, because we want to try different AI.
Head over to Gemini or whatever.
Kind of get our thoughts on it too.
Yeah,
be really curious about that.
Yeah, absolutely. If it turns out somebody saw this and has a question, we would be glad to shout you out, tag you, associate you with this mess, and see if we can break those machines in some sort of way. I feel like DOGE almost broke that brain a little bit.
Didn't even know what it was.
Didn't even know what it was.
It's just fascinating.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Well, all right. So you'll be able to follow along my journey to, Era's basically treatment of music. I'll be famous here shortly. You can follow that journey. You can follow us all the time, with what we're doing here. I'm not sure how long it'll last before the machines take over and shut us down, but it's gonna be fun while we do it. We'll probably talk about some marketing and stuff like that too, our day jobs. Andrew, you got anything else for our audience?
No, I think you nailed it. I think it's great. We're excited for more of this. This is a interesting endeavor on our calling right now our mini series of podcasting, and putting us right into a bit of the driver's seat as we're working with clients who are doing the same kind of thing every day. So this is really neat to be on this side of the camera. And Topher, it's a pleasure always to work with you on this kind of project.
Heck yeah, man. Dear Mr. ChatGPT, how should I close this podcast I'm live on right now? I need a couple sentences. That's a wrap for today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in and sharing your time with us. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow, leave a review, and share it with someone who'd love it too. We'll be back soon with more insights, so stay tuned. And until next time, take care and keep chasing those dreams. Headphone emoji, sparkle emoji.